Firstly, welcome to everybody. Really delighted to see such a great turnout on such a busy night. Particularly delighted to welcome Stephanie Brance, our regular interviewer on these occasions, and congratulate Stephanie on her position as the new face of women's sport on the ABC. Congratulations, Steph. I'd also like to welcome Mark Anderson, the CEO of Hockey Australia, Lee Nugent, the head coach of the Australian swimming team, and our elite ladies athletes, Alicia Coots, Anna Flanagan, Alice Mills, Alison Shreve, Lucille Bailey, Grace Gill, Susie Befkovich, Ashley Sykes, Nicole Sykes. I believe they're the third set of twins to represent Canberra United, so congratulations to the girls. Claire Tallant, who's brought her old man Jared along just to be second fiddle for a change. And Carrie Graff. I'm sure I've probably missed a couple, and I apologise if I have, but a great selection of ladies athletes. Welcome. Stephanie will be talking to you all a little later. It's particularly important to me to celebrate women in sport tonight. As many of you know, I've been researching women's sport for 2 years now, and I've been listening to a lot of people. And it's about time Andy Turnbull got off the fence. So I have a couple of insights into what I believe to be some of the challenges facing women's sport. And the first insight is that I believe women's sport should take a majority position and not a minority one. At this Commonwealth Games, 52% of the medals were won by women. That includes gold medals as well. Hockey, we're listening about this evening, 53% of the participants of women. This is not a minority issue, this is a majority issue. I think if you translated that into the House of Representatives, that would be a majority of 6 to 9. That's solid government, and I think sport should actually recognise that and cater for the majority. I think my second insight to women's sport, and this is a generalisation because the sports deliver for women. It is not about the sports, it is about women's sport as a sector and as an industry. And I have to say, I think women's sport just has to stop the introspection. It's all inward-looking. I went to a conference called the International Women's Group on Sport in Sydney in 2010, in June 2010. There were 550 ladies debating women's sport. It was a collection to get your PhD. It had nothing to do with the real world. And everybody was moaning about the minority issues. Nobody gives us any money. Well, I'd just like to get that off the table and get on with actually professionalising the representation of women's sport. So they're my only two insights tonight, but I think they're extremely important ones. Sports hydrant. How are we going to play a role? We're going to play a role because what we want to do is unite women of all ages and walks of life in just activity, recreation, healthy lifestyles. And you will hear from me on many, many occasions about Sport for Women Day, Women's Hour, Elite Tug of War. We just want to get more and more women throughout Australia taking part. We want to inspire women and energise them to see our elite athletes and to do more and more of it. And that's a simple message that we're going to do. You're going to hear tonight about elite professional sport. And professional is an interesting word because hockey and swimming, which are our main examples tonight, are administered professionally, but the athletes aren't professional. And I guess you will hear those stories. I think they're great stories. They're very positive stories about what is happening in raising the profile of elite women athletes and actually delivering for those women. It's clearly a very long process because the final insight probably in this respect is professionalising women's sport. Because this is not, in profile terms, about how many column inches in a newspaper. If you looked at the column inches, it would be representative of the professional sport, male or female, that takes place on a Saturday or a Sunday. And it is that we have to address. It'll take 15 or 20 years, but I believe if we recognise that and the stepping stones to semi-professionalism and then subsequently professionalism, it will happen one day, then we're on the right track. So that, for me, is the issue. It is professionalising all sport, not saying we haven't got enough money and therefore it's not going to work. Let's have a professional attitude to the issues and I think we'll make some progress. So the second thing I'd like to talk about with respect to the representation of women's sport is Andy has got off the fence, because this is what it's like in this country at the moment. There's no investment, there's no leadership, there's no profile, there's no research, there's no interest and there's no understanding. And I know that's an exaggeration. But when I went to see the previous Minister for Women's advisor on women, and I talked to her about, and there is nobody in this room, and if she was, if they were, I would be talking to them about it. When I went to talk to them about the Australian Women's Sport Recreation Association, they said, who? Now, this is the peak body for women's sport in this country. It doesn't exist. Sadly for that body, it's underfunded and so on and so forth, many excuses, but nobody's heard of it. So we have to change that. We actually have to work on addressing this problem, and this is about profile. And we have a solution. Guess what? That's why I'm stood up here. And I believe that we have to move from the bureaucratic system where reliance on government actually is what happens all of the time. There is no ability to address the fact that if you give this to the commercial sector, you might actually start to make some progress. So what we would like to do is set up a charitable trust called Active Women Australia. And this is about energising women. It is about enthusing them to get active. It will have a commercial focus. It is not about the community, because as you can see from that slide, the community problem should be dealt with by the women in the community. They are the most knowledgeable people. So if you are in Burke or a similar country area, you know what the problems are. So what you want is a commercial knowledge centre that can deliver support to those women who understand their issues. Every solution will be different. Sydney and Melbourne will have different issues to the country towns, and I think you should empower those leadership women in those areas to come back with what those problems are, seek support, and then the support can go into those areas on a tailor-made basis. By the same token, the intelligence comes back to a central point. So I think this body should be linked to all the sporting bodies so that there is a central intelligence point for women's sport. And then when the next problem comes up in another country town, you can actually fast-track the solution because you can track the similarities. That's what we need to do. I'm not going to go on about that this evening. I just want to float that idea that a central charitable trust with a board membership that is commercial, partnered with sport, will deliver, and the community rests with the communities. That will deliver some solutions to the representation of women's sport in this country. I'll be lobbying you all on a number of occasions, I'm sure. Finally, the subject matter of this evening is raising the profile of women's sport. And you'll be talking to the girls, or you'll be listening to the girls, and it will be really interesting to see what they have to say about how they spruik their stuff with the media and get themselves noticed. It's very hard. It's a competitive field. So this is the Sports Hydrants. There's a proposal. It's certainly not all of the answers, and I'm quite happy that some of them are wrong. But again, it's about saying, let us professionalise certain areas. Let us understand that we need to professionalise sport, and let us take a different attitude to it. I don't know whether a lifestyle channel with 50% ladies' sport will work, but let's push in that direction and see what happens. It's not going to work as it is at the moment. Aggregating information, moving it to the centre pages of the newspaper, again, I don't know, but I'm going to have a try, because I think we actually have to show to people that ladies' sport is a different product. It is equal to men's sport, but it's different. So let us put it in a different place and get on with it.